Okay, welcome back. So I hope that you've really been enjoying really understanding the biology of what it means to tell the truth. And again, not just for your own sake, but for the sake of the credibility that you would have with other people in relationships. And so now let's look at what we actually do when we think that we're telling the truth. Okay, so in front of you, on this page, you have immature and a mature response. And so we're going to take a closer look at really when we do speak the truth and under what circumstances we think that it's okay to tell the truth and maybe okay not to act in a truthful way. And so we're going to use an immature and a mature response to help us understand this a little bit better, okay? Because remember, truth will help to mature us. It will help us to grow up and achieve purpose. Okay, so now under the column of immature response, have you ever met or have you ever been around a 2-year-old, a baby, or a 4-year-old? And what is the typical response of a child when you tell them something he or she does not like? Or maybe you take something away from them or take playtime away or something. And so under the immature response, I want you to start listing some of the responses a child will give to you. For example, they cry, they throw a tantrum, they lie, they blame others, they're victimized, they don't think anybody understands them. And so I want you to go ahead and spend a few minutes and let's go ahead and just start writing these down. So I'll give you just a minute or two. And so as they respond this way, it's obviously not very exciting for you. Do you think that this person or this child is interested in healthy relationships? Obviously not. Do you think that this child is thinking about the purpose that they have in life? No. So you're going to write this down. Do you think that the child is thinking about their future? No, not at all, because it wants immediate satisfaction. So having said that, do you think that this child is demonstrating to you a significant level of emotional intelligence or delayed gratification? Not at all. And so I'm writing these down with you. And so fill this list out, and you might want to even add some more things. You're like, oh my gosh, this child hits, this child screams, this child is not rational, it doesn't want to talk, so it's not going to have a good conversation, so it's not rational, the behavior. Okay, so we've got this. Now on the second column, I want you to think about what happens with a mature response. And so let's say that somebody says, you're not going to get the promotion after all, or you're not going to get this bonus that you were hoping to get, or you're disappointed about something. I want you to write down how a mature person would respond. So do you think that this mature person might be thinking about the relationships in their life? Well, if I react in an aggressive way, it might damage relationships. So yes, this person is thinking about healthy relationships, okay, and they're wanting to invest in those relationships. Do you think this person might say, well, could we have a discussion about it instead of, throwing a big wobbler and throwing a temper tantrum? Of course, this person may want to have some dialogue to get better understanding. So they're seeking to have a better understanding so that they can have a better dialogue. Okay, do you think this person might be thinking about their purpose? They might think, well, if I respond in a really unhealthy way, could this prevent me in the future from maybe getting a different job, or maybe it would impact how other people are viewing me and it's going to cause a reputational problem. And so, of course, this person is going to be thinking about their purpose and how this particular situation could impact that. So as a result of that, this person is going to obviously be thinking about their future. All right, do you think that the mature response would be to operate at a higher level of emotional intelligence? I want to be upset, I want to cry, and maybe I need to cry, but I'll cry later. And so not in front of this group, and I'll just keep my composure, okay? Is that possible? Yeah, absolutely. And so you're going to continue to list these things down on the mature response, all right? Now that you have compared the two, let's take a look at number 3 on this page. What part of the brain is being utilized with the immature response? Well, of course, it's the amygdala. And so this is the amygdala hijacking this individual's plan for the future, if you will, because this is going to be a consequence motivated reaction. Because obviously, if you're going to react in a negative way, there will probably be some form of consequence that will come from that. And it may not happen today, but it may happen later. And so, but the immature response, or the individual that's thinking from an immature perspective, they're not going to be thinking about consequences. They're going to be thinking about, I just want to get how I feel out. And so that's the amygdala that's actually in operation. All right. Also, what model is that working from? Well, that's the benefits model, because there is a reaction that's taking place. Now, we know there's not any purpose there in that model. We know that there's little or no healthy relationships at all. And we know, again, that it's a past and a present orientation. So this individual is not thinking about how they're reacting is going to impact their future. So you want to list all that on number 3. And then, of course, let's look at number 4. What model is that working from? Well, that's the investment model. And that comes from what part of the brain? The prefrontal cortex. So do you see how we're taking some of the things that we've learned in earlier chapters, and now we're applying them to even how we are reacting and responding, and if we're really being truthful about it. Because a truthful person, someone who's really grounded and committed to the truth, understands about purpose, they understand about rewards versus consequences, they understand about future orientation, and they're going to be logical, and they're going to be very thoughtful about their response. Okay, so now that you've completed those columns, I want you to take a minute and circle all the responses you usually give when somebody gives you bad news, or takes something away from you, or tells you no about something that you really wanted to do. And it's likely that you're going to circle things both from the immature response as well as the mature response. And so this is just going to give you an idea about areas of your life that you need to work on. Because again, even though we might think we're very grounded in the truth, it's likely there are areas that we need to work on. And this is another good example of what happens when we do need to work on how we view the truth. Okay? Now, we're at a point where we need to do some serious thinking. So you need to ask yourself this question: do I need to change the way I think about certain things in my life? For example, how do I view the truth? How do I view the truth in relationships, education, finance, sex? How I view authority? Can I improve my life? And the answer is simple. It's yes or no. And so if you've said yes, let's take a look, or you need to take a look at some of the areas in your life that you need to reevaluate. You may want, again, as I said before, people to tell you the truth all the time, but are you giving them that same view and that same courtesy and allowing them to have full disclosure about what you're saying? Or are you withholding because you have something you think you might want to gain from it? Okay? And so our behavior will always tell us what we're actually thinking. Even if we think we can hide it, I can tell you that, I've been with people, and within 10 minutes, they can tell me all the great things in their life, but it doesn't take long before you realize, wow, you know what? This person doesn't have a really good grasp about the truth in their own life. They're not telling themselves the truth about what's really taking place in their life. And listen, that's a hard place to be for anybody, because it may mean that you have to rearrange relationships. And that is so core to all of us as human beings, because it goes back to love and belonging. And those relationships form that area in our life where we can experience love and belonging, even if it's unhealthy. It's kind of like the fish or the frog that's being slowly boiled in water. After a while, you just get really used to the bad behavior. You get used to the unhealthy interfacing that takes place in those relationships. And we make all kinds of excuses for why we maintain those relationships. But the bottom line is, if they are not healthy for you, if they're not promoting truth in you, then these are relationships that need to be rearranged. And we did that exercise with the world of my relationships. And we had a really good explanation on how to do that without hurting people, but with also with the intention of creating that space so that you can grow and you can really develop into the person you need to develop into, and you're giving them a space also to do the same thing. Okay, so let's spend some time reflecting on how we are reacting when people are taking something away from us, or if they're saying something to us that we don't like. Are we being mature about it or immature about it? And keep in mind, maturity is on that path of development so that we can actually achieve our purpose. Okay, so it's some food for thought. We'll see you at the next session.